Bill here on, excuse me. Seems like we've lost some emails here, so give me one moment, please. Um, I need to. Okay. Let's see now if I can get Mr. Carroll. Okay, Mr. Carroll should be joining us soon. Let's see if let's see. Let's, okay, I think I see Demetrius is here. Okay. Well, oh my goodness! So the Detroit fan was the first one to show up. I thought the questions that I sent scared you away for the night.
No. Anytime you give me an opportunity to talk about the Honolulu Blue and Silver, you know I'm there. I canceled plans for the night. I was like, he took care of me tonight. I'm canceling.
Yeah, Bill should be joining us in a minute. Yeah. For some reason, he seems to have lost the memo. But
I think he was having some trouble with the link. So.
Yeah. But I sent it to him by phone, so he should be coming in pretty soon.
Yeah.
But while there's only the two of us here, would you like to comment on the blowback? I guess from LeBron. It seems like I was looking at I do look at Fox News because I mean, not only does it amuse me, but it also gives me fodder for my show on Mondays.
Exactly.
So once again we got the Fox News shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
And they were just waiting for him to get one wrong. Right. Something that they could really pick on. What was your blowback on that?
I mean, I think there's a saying, consider the source, right? You have to do that, and in these times, you have to consider the source. I think you're right. There are people, and that network in particular has made a lot of money and made a lot of people famous and gotten a lot of ratings. By doing exactly what they did. I don't even know if he was wrong. I would not have apologized. And I don't know if he really apologized. I think what happened was he understands that when he does that, it gives people like those people. We can talk about who those people are if we want, but those people an opportunity to deflect from the thing we really have to talk about. And it is important that this girl, this young woman, on the day when people who don't get it were celebrating, there's another situation, and it's exhausting, is what it is. And I think for him, because if I'm not mistaken, this was in Ohio, which is important to him.
Columbus.
Yeah,
Columbus.
this is in Ohio, and that's home for him. It's like if something happens in Flint, Michigan, or Metro Detroit, it's going to matter more to me than it would to LeBron. So that's important to him, and I think that a lot of people expected this celebration. I'm not going to get on my soapbox. It wasn't we can't celebrate that they did what they were supposed to do. That what should have happened, what should have been happening for hundreds of years, actually happened this time. It doesn't. It's one data point. It does not erase so much. It does not help the pain of the Floyd family. So I had not been, because I'm a Piston fan, an inherent LeBron fan, but I have grown to really respect LeBron James and actually like him more so as an individual, even than as a player, because as a player, he has caused me pain, right? As a Piston fan. So I don't think that I think that he is very intelligent. He understands his role in the world. I mean, that's kind of a bold statement, but for him, that's what it is. LeBron James has a role in the world, and I think he understands that. And sometimes even the best of us, allow our emotions. And I actually don't have a problem with him allowing his emotions to come out the way they did. I think that if he's going to get flack for, and I don't know if the flack is that he had the guy's picture in the post or whatever, the sentiment, I agree with 100%. You're next, bro. You are next. You are next. Now there's a lot more details we need to know, but do not try and condemn LeBron James because that's what he's saying. He's like, okay, here we go again. He could have chosen any number of statements. The spirit of what he was saying, I agree with 110%. I don't have a problem with what he did at all. Of course, I'm jaded, but I think that the idea that he should apologize for it or anything that those people, and it's not just that network, there's others, the shut up and dribble folks are always going to say that no matter what. And the worst thing he could do is actually shut up. That's a loss. If he actually shuts up, it's a loss. So I'm like I said, he has broken my heart on the basketball court as a Piston fan 1,000 times. As a man, as a citizen of the world, as someone who understands he has a platform and that platform can be used to help other people, I'm a LeBron James guy now. I mean, I have been for a while. So I have no problem with what he did. And I don't really care what those people say.
But if he had waited just 30 minutes and applied it to a different situation in Elizabeth City.
Yep.
Yep,
exactly, right? And that's what it's always the
30 minutes difference, just 30 minutes.
And it's tricky for him, You and I can get on the Sports Crib and say what we want, right? We can get on the Sports Crib and say what we want. No, there's not going to be a story on ESPN tomorrow morning about what I just said. Nobody's going to say that, but for him, it's different. And I think he navigates that space as well as anybody at his level that I've ever seen. I mean, and when you talk about the whole shut up and dribble thing was so absurd because the dude is super smart, right? Smart in a sense that he gets it. He is in a spotlight that only a handful of people have been in. He has navigated that space so well, better and better with each year of maturity and growth. And at this point, I don't, that stuff bounces off of him. I think his statement was, he doesn't want it to be about LeBron James. And I get it, because now we're talking about LeBron James and people's reaction to LeBron James, and we're not talking about the little girl that got shot. That's the point. That's the point he's making is, okay, I slipped on this one. Now y'all get to talk about me instead of talking about the little girl that got shot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where excessive force starts, because how are you taught to shoot, which is generally a muscle reflex? You're taught to shoot in groups. So, I mean, was 4 shots too many? You know what I mean? 4 shots, 15-year-old girl.
Right.
Anyway.
And it is difficult. I don't take it lightly. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, someone I care for dearly, and I think of as literally a brother. I've known this guy since I was 11, and he is every bit a brother as my actual brother. I talked to him at length about the psychology of those situations, and there is a degree that I will never understand. I have never, thank God, literally, thank God, I have never been in a situation where I've literally said to myself, there's a real possibility I could die right now. I've never been in that. God has blessed my life that I have never been in that. My brother-in-law has been in that many, many times. I don't want to say daily, but he has been in that situation many times. And he's ex-military. So you take someone who was trained in the military, as I believe both of you guys were. You guys have in military. This is just my concept. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I think you're trained to view the adversary as the enemy, who will kill you, who's trying to kill you. So then oftentimes these are the guys that come back and take jobs that by some myopic definition, protect and serve is the label that's put on them. And then they're put into these situations where I can't imagine the stress level or the psychological impact of what they're dealing with at that moment is uniquely different than what they might have dealt with in another country when someone was trying to kill them. But we're asking them to navigate this every day on a psychological. So I get that part. I just don't get it. And I didn't mean to do this. We were just chatting until you got here, and then I went off. It feels very much like when that person's skin is darker, it's shoot to kill. I'm not asking to see more stories about white guys getting shot and killed. That's not what I want. That's not the answer. I don't know how LeBron James is supposed to navigate this space where the trial has come to an end and the verdict is being rendered, and then he hears about a 15-year-old girl who got killed in his home state. Asking him to navigate that space effectively, knowing who he is, knowing what he has chosen to do with his platform, I don't even know if that's a reasonable request of LeBron James. And I support him 110%. I don't think he should apologize. I back him up. Not a lot of guys have had the guts to put themselves out there the way he has, particularly in the last 5, 6, 7 years when he didn't have to. He could just literally shut up and dribble, and he won't, and he can't. And I admire that about him. So,
Bill, we were talking about the shut up and dribble crew as LeBron took back his tweet about the young lady that had got shot in Columbus.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned to Demetrius, if he had just waited 30 minutes and applied it to Elizabeth City, there probably wouldn't have been any discussion.
exactly.
So, and you know, the second part, as he brings up, you know, I don't know whether this guy was ex-military or not, but I know we are usually taught to shoot in groups.
I'm assuming, and once again, I mean, I know sometimes they make changes to training, but I'm going to assume they didn't make any radical changes. We are trained to shoot center mass. We are trained to shoot, as you said, in 3 and 4 shot bursts. I think mostly I think 3 shot bursts is what I was sort of trained. But I mean, as you know, in a stressful situation, it's easy to get a couple of extra ones in there. I'm sure James will back me up on that too. Like, there was supposed to be 3 shots. Maybe it was 7, right? Adrenaline is one of the most powerful things in the world.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to explain to someone. I mean, I played sports, I've done things, but combat and combat-like situations, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's like, if you've driven 120 miles an hour, that doesn't come close. If you've skydived, that doesn't come close. I mean, I'm trying to think of, I can't think of anything. There's nothing I can think of that people talk about combat simulation. Dude.
Well, now, if you skydive into combat,
now then, yes,
next level.
December 20th, 1989, I got a chance to finally bring those two things together in near Rio Hato in Panama. But yes, there's nothing that comes close to it. Like when people say, you know, they'll tell me to watch a war movie and say, well, you know, is that No. Like, I don't know. First of all, the smells. I mean, there's so many things. Your senses are so heightened, first of all, which is, I think, is partially the adrenaline and partially just, for your, once again, you've trained and trained and trained, and now the moment's here. You never want to, how do I put this? There's a part of you that wants to be tested, right? Because you've been on this training, but you never want some of your training to be tested, right? I can say to this extent, I was an officer. That means that I was mostly concerned with directing people and getting them the right position and finding out where they were and what they were doing and communicating with, other assets that we had in the area, including trying to get information to and from the Air Force, which we could do a whole show about trying to communicate across services in a combat zone. But that's a different show, James. If you ever decide to do a show about that, well, I'll be happy to hop on and talk about what that is like, trying to find out where our close air ground support was, and making sure that we weren't in the wrong spot. So, it ended up on the news in a way we didn't want to end up on the news. But in that situation, everyone says, I would have. You don't know what you would have. Right. That's all I can tell you. You don't know. You don't know what you would have done. You might have frozen. You might have panicked. You might have run. You might have, shot everybody. I mean, there's no way to know. I cannot express to someone that you have no idea what you'll do. And I used to toss and turn thinking about that. Like, will I function? Will I do my job? That was the thing that drove me, was just the thought that I would fail my men. These are people that, 36 people's lives in my hands, and I just want to blow it. Oh, way to go, Clint. Nicely done, sir. Well played. But you don't know. Like, people who say, I would have done this, I would have done that, I would have done. You don't know. You don't. I mean, I was in combat, but that was a long, long time ago. What would I do if I was in that situation? I don't know. Because I'm a different person now. First of all, like, physically, good God, I'm so different. The things I could do in those days, my God. But also, I don't see taking a human's life the same way I did when I was younger. I think so differently. I'm a father. I mean, I'm such a different person. There's a very good chance that I would not have been able to drop that young lady. But at 20 or 21 or 22, I probably would have been able to. Not because I didn't value human life, but because, once again, you train so hard that when people say my training took over, and they say it like it's an excuse, it's not an excuse, it's the truth. You train so hard that you don't have to think, that you don't have to say, am I doing the right thing? Like, you train so hard so that the parts of you that, like,
muscle reflex,
ancient parts of the brain, right? Parts of the brain that date back to the days of the reptiles. I'm not even joking. Take over, and when it's over, you're like, I mean, when I came out of going just what I'm talking about in terms of being in a combat zone, I don't remember thinking a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I remember it was just, I knew, okay, well, I sent this fire team there, I sent that fire team there. I haven't heard back from so and so since I sent them that. Where are they now? And these damned Air Force people, will they get back to me about where this gun run is going to be? Because I don't want my men in the way. All this stuff is going through your head, but you're not thinking about yourself, or at least, I mean, from my own experience. Like, I was too concerned with trying not to screw this up and get, my men killed, that I never thought about myself. Like, when it was over, I was like all shaky and sweaty and, oh my God, but I want to make it clear that as much as I criticize some of the law enforcement personnel that have been in these situations, it is an incredibly difficult job. I don't know how else to say this. There's, once again, unless you've done it, there's no way. And I've never been in that job. I wasn't a guard dog. I was an attack dog, right? James, right? I'd have to worry about, but you know what I'm talking about. I wasn't a guard dog. I was an attack dog. I never had to worry about, once they told us where it is, as soon as to go get it, we got it, right? We just go, right? We go till they say you've done it, you've accomplished your mission, stand down. That's how it works, right? And that's why it's sometimes dangerous to say,
it's the difference between search and destroy and search and enjoy.
Yes. There you go, James. You're bringing back a lot of old school sayings. My gosh, I haven't heard these in 30 plus years. And that's the danger. And I understand why they like going after veterans to hire them. And I'm glad that they consider them, but I think you need to also understand there's repercussions that go with getting someone who was in the, the 4th Infantry, or in, the 82nd, or in the 101st, or a mild unit, 2nd and 75th, or whatever, and saying, hey, complete the police academy and boom, go. It's almost like you have to train. You have to have a different part of training. Like you do the normal training you do for anybody who's going to police academy. You have a whole thing where it's like, okay, we like the fact that you are already used to certain things and structure and discipline and being in stressful situations. But we need to understand no one here you're going to deal with is the enemy, right? Some of them are threats, but even the threats aren't the enemy. And it's hard to separate the two, right? Because threat and enemy, where I come from, is the same thing, right? I didn't have to, right? If you're a threat, you are the enemy. When you're in the military, like there's no difference. But when you're in the streets of Detroit, Indianapolis, Portland, Chicago, Portland, Maine, Orlando, wherever it is, the people that you roll up on, no matter what's going on, are still citizens, right? That you took an oath to protect and defend all of them, not just the good ones.
Clint.
Yes.
Good to see you here, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Glad to see you have a smile on your face at least. So maybe there was a little change since the last time we saw you.
I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling much better.
Good. Happy to hear it.
Good.
Yes.
So what was your take on the shut up and dribble crowd? I just thought that once again, it was like it seemed like they were just waiting for Lumperon to get one wrong. But if he had just waited another 30 minutes, the tweet would have been relevant.
Yeah. I think it kind of shows the era that we're in, that the previous era guys, this area would not have worked so well with them. Right. It wouldn't have worked to sit there and say, just like the LeBron situation, he comes out, he wants to jump on top, but he gets that tweet out, gets a lot of backlash for it. Can you imagine if MJ had Twitter? Can you imagine if Muhammad Ali had Twitter?
Oh, that's a better example.
Yeah, because it would have been very, very different. Is there a responsibility with Twitter to think about what you throw up there? Yeah, probably. But it is also a reminder that this is a very different era, that these guys are going through something we have never seen anything like this before. So yeah, it's like I said, they were waiting to jump on him, and he put that out there, and that's a really Bill talked about that. That's a really tough position to be in. I look at the situation and go, those are people that probably need all the training and the money, and we need better people doing that job.
Yep.
And it kind of feels like, well, what do we get for $7.95 an hour? And you're going, wow, I wonder why they suck so bad. Well, it's kind of like your waiter at the fast food place. What did you think you were getting? So that's a tough position. And like Bill talked about, you're going into situations. I sat there. I remember the days when we watched Cops, and you're just watching, and I was like, how do they know who is doing what? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on as you walk in the house, and they're dealing with that live and in person. So it's a no-win situation there.
Well, guys, let's talk some sports. Clint, since you were the first guy here again, back from a little hiatus.
Not a hiatus.
Do you think that this is going to be the first draft since 2014 where a running back will not be drafted in the first round?
It'll be close. Travis Etienne has got to be on a few teams' mind. You would think that there's going to be a few squads that are going to look at him. And with his versatility, he can hurt you in a few different ways. So that's going to help. I guess, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, some of those guys could be out there. Here is the biggest takeaway from this, though, because you just talked about, was it 2014?
14.
Yeah. So we're not going that far back. If you have a young person don't let them be a running back. The money is no longer there. Like when we were kids growing up and you saw the running backs, hey, we remember, you had the Tony Dorsetts, you had the O.J. Simpsons, you had, even the late 90s, you had the Marshall Faulks, you had the Terrell Davis, you had the running back was the guy. Walter Payton, those were the guys. That is not the case anymore. Being the running back means you've got 3, maybe 4 years, and then you're gone. So, yeah, the running back has been greatly devalued, but you take such a beating. You can take a number 1 guy, with your top pick if you want to, but he might only be there a few years. Right. So, yeah, it's a risky pick to take those guys. I think one will probably go in the first round, but it's going to be close.
Demetrius, I'm not going to let Bill steal your thunder this week. So,
actually, Clint might have done it. No, Clint, great analogy. And for the 2 Pittsburgh guys, Franco Harris belongs on that list as well. Just to make that clear, I think that for me, it's about economics. I agree with Clint 110%. Here's the thing, though: you take that guy in the first round, and there's that extra year on the rookie deal, right? There's that 5th year option. So it depends on how you look at it, right? If I'm a team, I am of the belief that a running back has 4 years. I would not do it. So the direct answer to your question is I think both Travis Etienne and Najee Harris deserve it. But if I'm picking later in the first round, I'm not doing it, because you take your running back in the second round. Now you have him for the 4 years. If he happens to work out and you haven't grinded him into dust in 4 years, which is the norm for NFL running backs now, you can franchise him for a year. Now you've gotten 5 full seasons. It's downhill after that. The statistics tell us it's downhill. With a couple of outliers, NFL running backs have 4, possibly 5 productive years, as Clint said. So I want him on his rookie deal when I'm not paying him that much, and he's most productive. That is the catch-22 of the NFL running back. His best years are when he's on his rookie deal. The exceptions will get a second contract, but you can get that contract from somebody else. I'll go draft another guy and pay him on a rookie deal. So economically, it doesn't make sense. And I think that when you have the depth you have at linebacker, wide receiver, at the top, quarterback, I think there's a real good chance those guys are top of the second round guys.
Mr. Draft Guru, Bill.
Okay. You're asking if I think a running back is drafted in the first. I'm going to try not to have a cake and eat it too. I'm going to say I think 1, just like with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, sneaks in right at the very tail end. Yeah, maybe. And I'm going to agree it's most likely Etienne. Najee Harris is a really good running back, and once again, I learned this a long time ago. The guys that don't run are guys that don't run fast, right? So when a guy at no point ever offers to run or accepts the invitation to run, you know that he knows he wasn't about to blow it up. Like, wasn't about to put up a great time. So I called him slower Steven Jackson, which is fine. Still, a slower Steven Jackson's a really good football player.
Steven Jackson
That's still a good football player. Like, I'm not disliking him.
Yeah.
But the way the modern NFL works, you're trying to get as much bang for your touch, for lack of putting it, as possible. And Najee Harris is a guy who can give you the occasional long run at the next level, but he's not a home run hitter, right? He's going to hit you a lot of singles and doubles and occasional triple. Travis Etienne's the kind of guy that can catch a swing pass, make a couple guys miss, and then, 70 yards, boom, right? Touchdown. And if you're going to spend a first runner at quarterback, and on running backs, right? That's still if, right? That's nowadays, that's an if. If you're going to spend a first rounder, you want a guy who has the ability not just to be consistent and good or even great. You want a guy who also is explosive and can just take a low risk, easy schemed play and then turn it into a long explosive play. And that's something Etienne can do that Najee Harris can't quite do.
In 2011, we probably would have been asking who are going to be the top 5 running backs taken in the draft.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen years, of course, back in the 70s when in the first half of the first, you'd see 4 running backs go. But those days are very much gone.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to give you 5 players that might not go in the first round, but I think they should. And Bill, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Because I don't have the slightest clue on how to pronounce this young man's
Yeah,
name.
give that one to Bill. Bill is the first guy. Yep.
Kid out of Syracuse is you.
Exactly. The defense in Syracuse is good enough for you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Bill, what about that DB out of Syracuse?
Oh, okay. So as you probably know, Ifeatu Melifonwu was the younger brother of Olumilanu Melifonwu.
Of course, you know that.
who had a tremendous pro day, as you might remember. And both of the Melifonwu brothers are terrific athletes. Things to like about him: he has a tremendous frame. He is once again, as I say, first guy off the bus amongst your DB group. He's going to be the first guy off the bus. Big, beautiful body. Is he great at everything? No, he has some some issues in terms of seeing what's going on in front of him. He's best used that classic sort of cover three. So even though he's a really good athlete, he's best seeing it all, right? Keeping everything in front and then exploding forward and getting in there. Even though he's a great athlete, he's not great always at staying in phase with receivers. He has a tendency to get sort of nervous and start peeking, right? There's a couple of us in here who've played DB before. So when you when you get nervous, when you panic a little bit at that moment, that's one reason he doesn't have a lot of interceptions and things like that. The guys who rack up interceptions have two things: great ball tracking skills, where he's not great at that, but they also don't panic, right? They feel like it's their ball and they relax at that moment as opposed to tightening at that moment. Because when you get nervous, when you tighten, you become less explosive. Even if he's a great athlete, he becomes a less great athlete because at the moment where the interception could be made, he starts to kind of tense almost. Can it be coached out of him? Maybe. But I have a feeling that he's going to be a second rounder. And I think he's going to look like a guy who probably should be a second rounder, at least at first, because he has to have some things coached out of him.
Yeah.
Demetrius?
I read 448 and I thought, okay. Okay. This is a league that loves speed, but I agree with Bill. I think that if the play's in front of him, he's better. I fear crossing routes, drag routes, chasing guys down is not something that the league sees. And I can't say I saw him play. So everything is about what I've read. And I saw the term top end speed a couple times. Like that was not what he had, top end speed. And I think for a corner, now if you were going to project him as a safety, I think a number of things I saw said that makes more sense. It really depends on your scheme. To Bill's point, if you're running cover 3, he's probably a better fit. And you can probably find ways to hide whatever his deficiencies are. But ultimately, again, I have to agree with Bill. When he goes first, this gets easy. I think he goes in the second round.
Clint?
I'm going to say the same thing, and I'm going to give the floor to the draft guru here. But yeah, it looks like the same thing. He's a big, talented kid. Is he a first round pick? No, probably not. I'd say he's probably a second rounder. And those NFL scouts love the fact that his brother had played in the league. They'll go grab him for that. But the kid can play a little bit. But yeah, I think he's probably a second day kind of kid.
And there's no shame, by the way, in being a second round draft pick. He's going to have a great career, probably make a lot of money. So this is not a really bad thing.
Okay, Clint, Elijah Moore, wide receiver.
Yeah, a kid out of Mississippi. He's the kid that did the dog peeing in the end zone thing. So let's go ahead and throw out maturity might be a problem. We can lob that idea. Hey, he's got some speed, but he is really, really undersized. Can you be a slot guy and be undersized? Yeah. Is he a first round guy? Not with that body and not with some of that baggage. Let's be honest, that's going to sting a little bit too. So I would think he's going to go into the second or third round as well. But Bill may know more than I do.
Demetrius?
I actually think this is simply a numbers game, right? There is if we count Kyle Pitts, think about this, right? There's 6 dudes from 3 schools that are almost certainly going. 5 of them are going in the first. Chase and Marshall may drop into the second. Chase is definitely going. Chase is going top 12. Waddle Smith top 15 for sure. If you count Pitts and Kadarius Toney from Florida, that's 6 receivers from the same conference from 3 schools. That is a remarkable statistic. He is in the SEC too as well, right? So, and I think it might just be a numbers game. There's only so many receivers that are going to get drafted in the first round that he gets pushed down. And on my big board, if I had one, and I'm working on one because I need it by tomorrow. So he's at best. I like Bateman, so he might be the 8th best receiver on my board. So that's what gets pushed down to this. I mean, the maturity thing is certainly legit, but I just think there's minimum 6 better receivers in this draft, and that's no shame because he will probably go late second, maybe early third, and there's no shame in that. He can still have a solid career, but this is a deep wide receiver draft, like a really, especially at the top. This is a really deep wide receiver draft.
Talking about big boards, I know, Bill, I know you have your big board done, many times. So what's your thoughts here on Mr. Moore?
Well, so now I get a chance to agree with somebody already. It is a numbers game. Not every team is going to need a first round wide receiver, at least. I'll put it that way. There's teams that are going to take a wide receiver somewhere in this draft, right? And it will probably be because there's so many good wide receivers. I think you'll see a run, as was mentioned earlier, last part of the second and going into the third. There will be several taken in the first, but you can't take them all, right? They can't all go in the first. Yeah. So if Bateman goes in the first, I mean, I think Kadarius Toney even could make his way into the second because there's so many good wide receivers. Yeah. And as fun as it is to watch Kadarius Toney, he's not really developed as a receiver. So it's going to take a while before he's a real full service wide receiver. So you've got some work to do when it comes to him. But in terms of the guys who are ready to go right out of the box and be starting wide receivers in the NFL, a bunch of them were mentioned, right? The Alabama guys. I'll just name schools, I guess. The Alabama guys, right? Marshall probably has that ability, but he might make it to the second.
Yep.
Other surefire, ready to go right out of the box. I mean, as ridiculous as Rondale Moore is, partially due to size and partially due to a bit of an injury history, he's going to make it to the second. But he might end up being the best of them all.
A steal.
If you know what to do with him, right? I called him the mutant love child of Eric Metcalf and Darren Sproles. And that's essentially what he is.
It is.
So and that's a guy who, once again, in a different kind of draft, might have gone number 20, right?
Right.
But in this draft, where there's a gazillion good wide receivers of guys who in a quote unquote normal year would have gone in the first, sometimes even in the middle of the first, are going to find their way to pick 48.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bill, you got the first one. Clint, you got this. Oh, so Demetrius, your turn here.
Okay.
Mr. Landon Dickerson.
Okay. So my thoughts are this: true sinners are just, they're sinners. You don't take sinners in the first round. Well, he had an ACL surgery. So first of all, I would say it's probably his torn ACL that pushed him down if he got pushed down. I think that obviously tackles have tremendous value. They go high. See Penei Sewell or Sean Slater. Guards, particularly if they have position flexibility, would go higher. He is probably the best center in the draft. I mean, Bill will correct me if I'm wrong. He's right, certainly right there. I just don't think teams put first round grades on centers. I mean, that sounds weird, but I just think that's the simplest answer is centers don't generally get first round grades. It's just not it's like it's slightly ahead of long snapper. No, that's not true. That's wrong. Centers don't generally. I mean, you have to be exceptional. You probably have to be able to play guard so that you have the position flex. Even then, the Lions drafted a guard out of Arkansas a few years ago who was now playing center. So that's more likely teams get their center by taking a guard and sliding him over. Right. And I just think he is a true center. I don't know that I've seen anything that projects him being able to slide out either way. So I'm gonna. It's not a fancy answer. It's pretty lame, but I think it's the position more than anything. So,
what do you think, Bill?
Well, yeah, as was mentioned earlier, Landon Dickerson has two things working against him. One is the position he plays, and two is the fact that, you know, he's a guy that did suffer. It wasn't even like one of the. I mean, there's no such thing as a good ACL tear, but right. his was not a good one. You know what I mean? Like, right? You know what I'm talking about? It was like one of those where people are like, oh,
right.
You know, the doctor's like yeah, I'm not making it home for dinner. I mean, one of those where you're gonna have to do a little extra work on it. So, so that works against him. But he'll probably be. He's such a tough guy and very smart, and coaches will love coaching him. But when there's so many really good football players at positions that are premium that get pushed up, right? I mean, we're talking about the chances that we might see 4, maybe even 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 picks, maybe 4 in the top 4. Which is insanity because they're not the 4 best players in the draft, but whatever. You know, but I guess we've normalized reaching for quarterbacks, I guess. I guess it's okay now. We shouldn't yell at people about it anymore, I guess. If you want to call someone a snowflake, you're a snowflake for acting like it's not a mistake to reach for quarterbacks.
Exactly. But your team drafting 7 and 9, we love it. So
right. You should. You should.
We don't,
Yes. Good. You've got the next Christian Ponder. Enjoy.
Congratulations.
The fact is that Landon Dickerson, even if 100% healthy, would be probably on the outside looking in if he never had an injury, because once again, how we look at the position. So he and Quinn Miners are 2 terrific football players. Yep. Miners is a guy that can play center, but he's really a guard. But once again, as Demetrius points out, teams don't like to even draft centers if they can avoid it. Right? Cody Whitehair was a right tackle. Right, in college. I mean, people draft other linemen that they like and then say, you can learn to play center. You know, right? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always work out, it should be pointed out, but people love moving guys from other positions that are, hey, Elijah Vera Tucker, would like play center? I mean, people just ask guys to play center, whether they can or not. Just because, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't value the position correctly. I think it's a very valuable position. And frankly, if there's a great center there and he's going to be your center for 12 years and help run your offense and be a captain and, you know, a linchpin of your offense, maybe you should consider taking him in the first, but they just don't do it. It's the thing that people don't do.
Yeah. No Marquise Pouncey here, huh, Clint?
No, I don't think so. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this isn't his first ACL injury. I think he had one his freshman year. He had an ankle injury his sophomore year. Now he's got this injury. So this is a solid player, but I think even but we have all these injuries. And I think even prior to the injury, he's probably a 2nd round guy then.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it just drops him back just a little bit further.
I actually like Creed Humphrey more, to be honest with you guys. But we'll see.
Healthier and more athletic.
Exactly.
What's not to like about that?
Yeah.
Clint, another DB here, Trayvon Warwick.
Oh yeah, the kid out of TCU. I actually like him. This is a kid that can sneak into the first round. TCU kid. If you have seen the system they run down there, he asks a lot of his belt, but he also asks a lot of his safeties to cover a lot of area. Merrick is a guy that can go out there and cover. It might be a little too new, but he reminds me a tiny bit of Justin Simmons. He is a big, rangy guy that can cover a lot of ground. I think he can get to the second half of that draft. If you are the Raiders, you have to think about it. If you are the Saints and you don't take him, you're a fool because you need him. He's better than anything you have right now. Yeah. So I think Merrick gets into the first round. I think he's a legit player.
So do I. Yep.
Who is he at on your big board, Demetrius?
Well, the nightmare scenario for the NFL is nobody takes him, and then he's there for pick 32, and Tampa Bay, which you can do whatever they want.
Right.
Decides to pair him with Antoine Winfield Jr.
Right. Exactly.
Now what are you gonna do, right? Because you've got two of the best young safeties in football on the same team.
Yeah.
Thank God they don't have Derwin James. But because then they would have, like a flush or what is it, 3 of a kind at least. But when I think about the horrendous things that they can do, because people very much undervalue the safety position. I think, of course, I am not unbiased. I can admit that. But that was the position I played. But when we look at the way the NFL is played now, right? There are teams that'll put 3 and some even 4 guys who basically are safeties. Some of them might be called linebackers, right? But Deion Buchanan wasn't really a linebacker.
Nope.
Mark Barron wasn't really a linebacker. Who's the other one I'm thinking of? But it's something that teams do where it's like they linebacker, but 211 pounds, right? You're not a linebacker. So the way that the game is played, you're putting more safety bodies, no matter what you call them. You're putting more safety bodies on the field because the game is all about space. You're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs and thinking, I don't really have a place for Bill Romanowski on the field right about now. I don't like the idea of him trying to cover a slot receiver or even any of the running backs that you see nowadays, come to think of it. So guys like Jeremiah Trotter, basically went the way of the Triceratops and the Brontosaurus Rex. I mean, the Brontosaurus. Because of the things you're asked to do now as a modern linebacker, you are kind of 25 to 30% safety anyway. Right. And then because you're in nickel, basically, 55, 60, 65% sometimes of the time, you are going to have at least 3 safeties on the field if you go big nickel, right? And some teams go little nickel and they put three corner types out there. But teams that are also trying to stop the run maybe will instead put three safety types. And one will be a bigger safety. God willing, you find maybe a Cam Chancellor type, which are hard to come by. Maybe you find one of those who's athletic enough to run deep and then also can be a force in the run game. Like that's what you please. And, from the same school, Divine Diablo, keep an eye out for him. Mm-hmm. He is a big athletic dude from Virginia Tech who I think is going to be drafted probably late day 2, maybe day 3, but is going to greatly outperform his draft position. But if you're asking about Morag, I'm with the token white guy. I think he has a really legitimate shot to crack the bottom part of the first because he can do so many different things.
I thought that was subtle. I didn't know we could say it, Clint.
It's out there. It's out there.
He's the best.
Subtle.
Right? He's the best safety on the board. I think Clint brought up a great point that he played in a system at TCU that I think asked a lot of what he'll be asked to do in NFL. And I think that I saw 3 of their games and not to be hyperbolic, the thing I kept thinking to myself was, this kid's making plays. This is a playmaker. And that's what the NFL wants, are dudes that make plays, who break on the ball, who explode into the tackle. And those are the things I saw when I watched this kid play. I think he might go top 20. He definitely won't get past the Saints at 28. Clint's right about that. So I have him almost as a surefire first round. I would be shocked if he does. He might go higher than in the 20 area. But if he got past the Saints, I'd be stunned. I think he's that good. I think he is played in a style that transitions him into the NFL very, very well. And I think he has all the instinctive things on the field that you want from your safety.
Demetrius, Tyler Shelvin, defensive lineman.
Yeah. So I think he is Liam Neeson in Taken. He is a man with a very particular set of skills, right? This is a run stuffer, right? And I'm always looking for any reason to bring up the Detroit Lions. So in the 90s, they had a guy named Jerry Ball. Right?
Olympic Jerry Ball. Yeah.
Jerry Ball demanded double team, clog the middle, space eater. Pick your adjective for that big dude that just clogs up stuff, right? To me, that's what Tyler Shelvin is. Now, here's the problem. NFL teams aren't going to pick you in the first round if you can't play 3 downs, right? If you got to come off the field on 3rd down, that's how you drop. And it's really that simple. What he does exceptionally well. Maybe the best in the draft as that traditional big run stuffer in the middle. Haloti Ngata, like I said, Jerry Ball, those types of dudes, he does it well, but he's got to come off the field on passing downs. And that's just the way it is. And when they grade people out, that is literally a part of that grading process. He's going to have to come off the field on third down. And that there's no shame in that. Like I said, what he does might be the best in the draft at it. Some team is going to draft him. Their run defense is going to become appreciably better as soon as they write his name on the card. But it won't be in the first round. It'll be Friday.
Right.
Clint.
If that.
Yeah. Because he could even last till Saturday. You talked about him being a run stopper and him. It's weird because I was looking up on the internet and I looked up on Wikipedia and I looked up pant load and his picture was there. That is a big man. He is a large guy and he's had problems keeping his weight down. Yeah. So not only does he have to leave the field because he's not really a guy that's going to go after the passer, he's got to leave the field because he can't breathe.
He's tired.
And yes, I'm just tired. I just need some water. So that is, again, that's going to go into why he's going to fall into Friday and maybe Saturday, because he is not an every down guy. Snacks he likes. Third downs, maybe not as much.
Right. The nickname is already taken though.
You can't have it. You can't have it.
Yeah. He's shelving in that he's hard to move, but you do have some issues with a couple things. So Naquan Jones, we just met Tyler Shelvin and Krisis Tonga from BYU. Mm-hmm. They are all guys who have, as he just said, a particular kind of value in particular situations. Short yardage, goal line. They're fun to watch on tape, all that good stuff. And in the case of Tonga, you get a little bit of push, occasionally they'd let him, single, just sort of shoot a gap and things like that. But mostly he was taking on blockers for a living. And that's what these guys do, right? If you run a hybrid odd front and you need somebody to occupy, least and possibly one and more likely two blockers, they all can do that at a high level. And in case of Tonga, at least give you a little bit of pressing, pushing in the pocket. The other two really give you zero in terms of that. That's not something they do. It's not something they seem to be interested in doing even. They just are, they know what they are, right? Right. I love the term pant load. But yeah, we are talking about people who practically have their own gravitational pull. And that still has some value in football. But there's a reason that you don't see as many Ted Washington types, as many Sam Adams types. You don't see those guys, Gilbert Brown types. You don't see as many. Well, one, up-tempo, right? That's as Clint just pointed out. Oh, what, another play already? Wait, no, I'm not. No. Right. What? Stop. Right? I mean, you can't play up-tempo. It's harder to play up-tempo if you're 368 pounds, right? That's why one of the reasons you go up-tempo is to make sure that guy taps out, right? Yeah. So that's one thing that happens. So when a team does decide to play tempo, and it does happen even in the NFL, not as much, but teams will go tempo, teams will go, right, go, right? And when you're a huge human being, that's not your friend. Tempo is your mortal enemy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bill, well, let's go to the other extreme, because we go from pant load to let's pull up my pants. 166, I believe, at the OTAs. But he does possess a lot of skill. But also, we have some large safeties and some large corners out there.
Yep. So,
your thoughts, Bill?
Well, the good news is that he did at least break the 160 mark. Now, Tutu Atwell is now in that. Who remembers Gerald Ice Cube McNeil?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so he's kind of in that range. He's 149 pounds. So I'm not the biggest dude in the world, but I think I was about that. Well, I wrestled at my last year of high school, I wrestled like 138, 132. My walking around weight was like 143. And I played football at probably right around 149 too, but I was in high school at the time, obviously. But my program weight was like 160 because that's, they're helping you out. But the point is that when you are built like that, we always talk about, well, Russell Wilson didn't just wake up yesterday. He was 6'2" the day before. And now he's 5'10" and 5'8", right? Same thing. These guys weren't big, bulky dudes, weren't muscular dudes before. And then, oh my God, I lost 60 pounds. No, They've been the size for a while. They figured out certain things, survival things, whatever you want to call them. So everyone brags about the SEC. Oh, it's the closest thing to the NFL, blah, blah, blah. So if that's true, and it's not really true, but if it's true that this is the quote unquote mini NFL, which it isn't, but if we're buying that, then you have to say that he was consistently beating, and sometimes beating badly, the best defensive back supposedly in college football, including on his own team, right? He went up against some pretty good DBs every day in practice. And then he played against teams like LSU and Georgia and a bunch of other teams that's supposed to have these top-level DBs. And you didn't see him get thrown around like a paperweight, right? You didn't see him getting bullied. You didn't see people tossing him into the stands. So it means he's figured something out, right? He's figured out a way to not get, tossed into the third row of the stands. And it should be pointed out, the NFL is actually officiated more tightly than college football. For those that are new to watching college and pro football, that's why when people talk about J.C. Horn, I love J.C. Horn's game, but he's going to get a lot of flags early in his career. Yep. You don't let you grab like that in the NFL. So if Devontae Smith has figured out how to survive and even thrive, I am convinced if he doesn't make it in the NFL, it won't be because of that. I'm convinced that it'll be something else. Injury, struggling with some other part of the game. He clearly understands route running, beating the jam, and all the other things that you need to, once again, basically own the record book practically at Alabama, which has had a few decent receivers. I mean, I did a little research. Turns out a lot of good receivers have played at Alabama, right? And so when he has broken a bunch of the records there, it probably means he's okay.
Clint, have you seen some of those commercials? Is it just okay?
Is it just okay for Devontae to be that little? One thing that doesn't get brought into it, and if you've seen the picture of this kid, he has a really distinct advantage in the length of his arms.
Yeah.
And he doesn't let bodies get up near him because his arms are past his knees. And as light as he is, like Bill spoke about, he has learned to do that. And he's been successful at every level that he's played at. This is not a kid that just showed up and all of a sudden one day was good at Alabama. He's been good kind of everywhere he went. Against Ohio State, what did he play? A half? And he torched them.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
He's ridiculous. Yeah, very slight guy. NFL weight room will probably give him 14, 15 ounces. But he's a slight guy. That's what he is. But hey, make no mistake, that kid can play. He's got fantastic hands, and his ability, again, with those arms, to go up and attack the football in the air. Devontae Smith can play. He might have other concerns, but he can play a little bit. I just hope the kid stays healthy because I do like watching him play.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to be that dude, but I am. This is a violent game played by very large men. They're big, and they're bigger than the guys he played with at Alabama. I'm sorry. And they're better than the guys he played with at Alabama. Now,
that's the main difference, yeah.
Right. To me, this becomes about schematics, right? If you're that team with that system that has a fit for that skill set, fine. I don't know that he's a fit for every team. I do not want the team drafting at 7 to even think about it. That's all. That's what I'm saying there. I don't.
Let me make a change to my board here.
Yeah, change your board, please. I think he could be a weapon. I mean, I always hear the comp Tyreek Hill, and I don't buy it. I think that does a disservice to Tyreek Hill. It does a disservice to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. Tyreek Hill is a really good football player, and he does a lot of things well. He's generally running right past someone, and that's what we see. I think Devontae Smith. I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's the best receiver on his own team, but I'm not going to do that part. I think his teammate is bigger and better, but he's an NFL player. He's a legitimate first round pick wherever he goes. If he goes 12, 15-ish, I'll think it's more value than if somebody in a single digit number takes him. But I think more than anything, you have to scheme. You're going to have to scheme success out of Devontae Smith. And I don't want to do that. So, yeah.
Well, It's your time to shine now.
It's that time. It's that time of the podcast. I've been so happy all day. Let's do
it. Do the Lions draft another can't miss wide receiver?
All right. So I'm going to at some point touch on my dream scenario, which is trading back, right? There is not really a scenario where I want them selecting. So to your question, though, the answer to your question is no, because there isn't a can't miss receiver that will be on the board at 7. I think the can't miss 2 players that have a reasonable shot. Penei Sewell's a can't miss. If Penei Sewell's on the board, you write his name down, you unplug the phones. I don't even want to hear it ringing, right? Jamar Chase is my other one. I think Jamar Chase was on the same team with Justin Jefferson, and he was the best player, right? And we know how good Justin Jefferson translated in Minnesota. I think Jamar Chase is the only can't miss receiver, and I just don't think he'll be there at 7. If he's there at 7, but I think the phone's ringing because if he's there at 7. So ultimately, my answer is no, they don't do it because I don't think the can't miss receiver will be on the board. And in my dream scenario, they trade back anyway, and we never have to worry about this. In the dream scenario, Penei Sewell's on the board, and you write his name down, and we got our right tackle for the next 10 years. I do like Slater. If we have to pick at 7, and Sewell and Chase are both gone, but we have to make a selection, we don't like anything on the phone, I like Slater. I like Slater that much, and that's a need. I don't think it's a reach. Some people might think it's a reach at 7. I think if you do best available, Rashawn Slater is not that far off from 7. I think the quarterbacks convolute the mocks and all these people who tell you how the pick should go. But if people just did best available player, I think Rashawn Slater is there. So I would say no to your question because I don't think there's a can't miss receiver not named Jamar Chase, and I don't think he'll be there. As much as I like Waddle, I wouldn't take Waddle at 7. I'd take Waddle or Smith at 12 or 15. If Bill's boy, and this is just any reason for me to do the 3-name thing that Bill does, William Stephen Belichick III calls and wants to move up from 15, I'd take Smith or Waddle at 15. Absolutely. Not at 7. Not at 7. Can't do it.
Clint, who you taking at 7?
But if I'm making the pick, I'd probably taken someone else, but we've been watching the Lions for years.
Our friendships on the line.
Calvin Johnson, Roy Williams, Herman Moore, Mike Williams, probably another guy named Mike Williams, probably another guy named Mike Williams. We're taking a receiver. As likely as it is for Denver to take a bad quarterback, you're taking a receiver. We can have shared pain.
Yes. Bill took off his glasses. This ain't gonna be good. This ain't gonna be good. He took off his glasses before he talks about my team. Let me get a little more coffee and get ready for this.
I know people are taking shots and it's fun. I do not believe they take a receiver. Now, I'm going to tell you this though, Mr. Demetrius Verdes. I haven't completely ruled out that if somehow Kyle Pitts is there. I know it's kind of being a receiver too. I know that's why you're making that face. But I can see them saying to themselves, we can run 12 personnel and it'll be unstoppable in the red zone, right? Unstoppable. Hawkinson is on the verge of becoming a more athletic version of Heath Miller. Yeah. And if you put that with a guy who has a chance to be, he gets comped to Darren Waller a lot. I think he could be a better blocking version of Darren Waller. That's not bad. But what I truly believe, I think you're actually getting one of the corners. I think the first corner off the board might actually be going to Detroit. That's what I think happened.
I think you might be right. And that wouldn't bother me. We have needs everywhere. So wow, that would be fine. That would fill a need because we have needs everywhere.
Oh. Okay, Demetrius, we had our fun for the evening. Now we can get serious again.
My friendship with
Clint,
yes.
New jersey numbers, new instant replay help,
yes.
Onside kick being tweets. What's your thoughts about some of these new rules coming out?
Most of them are pretty meaningless, like a lot of the things that the NFL does. Most of them they're not really going to do that much. The onside kick, you change one player difference. Here's the deal. and let's get this on the table. If you are in need of an onside kick to win a game in the NFL, you're going to lose unless you're playing the Atlanta Falcons, and then you're going to win. But that doesn't matter. You're going to win that game eventually anyways. That's the only situation. Other than that, if it's an onside kick, your chances aren't very good. Yeah. The instant replay situation, why do I need to see the ref go under the hood? Can't we just have the eye in the sky just kind of say, hey, yeah, it was in bounds. Yeah, no, just change it. I would rather see that and we just have it faster. That would be way more appealing to me as a fan, just to not have to see the show of the ref going over and looking in the little Viewmaster viewer. I don't need to see that. It doesn't have any base on what I do. I just wish we had an eye in the sky that just said, hey, here's the call, change it. Let's get it done as quickly as possible. Yeah. The number change thing, I know Tom Brady's pretty fired up about it. And I mean, I guess he's got to identify the mic on every play. So he's a little worried about it. But my biggest problem with the NFL changing to the single digit numbers for some of these players is that's like a college thing. Like, that's cool. I like seeing the defensive tackle wearing number 2. I like that at college. At the NFL, it kind of seems like the old dude trying to use the teenage slang. Like, it doesn't work for me. It's me being the old dude. It's all right. There's no shame in being the old dude. You don't have to try to talk like the kids do. But that kind of feels like that's what the NFL is doing. Maybe that's just me, but I just like that part of the college game.
Yeah. Any arrows in my back here?
No, I was complimenting you.
Demetrius, what do you think?
So I love this league. I got to say that disclaimer right up front. You guys know how much I love this league. But I believe 90% of the things this league does is about money. I think this is selling cool jerseys because Clint's right. This is old dude trying to talk about things being lit and on fleek or whatever the hell that means. This is
great example.
So I think this is like, and it's going to work. These jerseys are going to sell very well. So it's a revenue stream. The NFL has cornered the market on how to develop new revenue streams. They're fabulous at it. And I'm not even mad at them. I love the league. It's cool. I'm fine. The replay thing, it doesn't really bother me. I like to be kind of myopic and say it's about competitive balance or integrity of the game, getting it right. But we're talking about the NFL again, so I feel like there's a money grab in there somewhere. I just don't see it yet, right? I don't see it yet. But if it's really like about teams getting treated fairly, that's great. Because whether it's the dude who created the process and cost us that game in Chicago, or the dude who missed KJ Wright slapping the ball out of the end zone in Seattle, and there's a ref in Dallas who picked up a flag, I'm going to find that dude. We still got a conversation. We got to have it. If it's about getting it right, I'm okay. And that ref in Dallas, if you happen to hear this, I am looking for you. I'm actively on Facebook looking for you. So as a Lions fan, since I was 8 years old, if they're trying to find a way to make the game more balanced and give us any, because the refs don't like us. In case y'all didn't know, there's a thing. The refs hate the Lions. Everybody in Detroit knows it. Refs hate the Lions. But just seriously, I think the jersey thing is a straight money grab. I like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say the replay thing is about getting it right. Because I mean, seriously, if you're in New Orleans or some of these places where these really, really horrific, egregious transgressions have happened, this might be to placate some of those people. But when it's the NFL, my bottom line is always there's money in it somewhere. I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah,
you might want to try LinkedIn.
I'm gonna find it. I'll find it.
Bill,
so unless and until you have things like this, upon further review, we took a second look. And speaking of second looks, lens crafters will help you have a better second look. Like, until we get to that point, I will try to take the high road regarding what they're doing with replay. I believe, as Dimitri said, that at least it's an attempt to tighten up. I mean, it's funny because when replay first came out, people were like, "Yay! Finally, they fixed football!" Right? Remember that? Remember all the hope and all her optimism and
that worked out well. Yeah.
We were like, yes, finally, So for whatever reason, it appears more tinkering is needed. People have been asking for the Sky Judge since they saw that you could have a Sky Judge. Right. It's like, oh, why don't they just do that? Right? And for reasons They haven't quite gotten to that point yet. Maybe someday. And yeah, regarding the whole jersey thing, I mean, I'm surprised they don't just have a thing where, you know, fans can bid to name what numbers players will wear for a particular game. You know, hey, you know, go online, register, and you can choose what number. Pat,
a fan poll sponsored by DraftKings.
There you go. I mean, I wonder if by the time, you know, I mean, some of us have like teenage children. I wonder if by the time our children are our age, it'll be like straight NASCAR. Where like, you know, guys,
tattoos,
just head to toe, festooned with things. But yeah, I'm always glad to see any attempts to get closer to not blowing important calls, particularly. What I'd like to see is also them saying, hey, if it's like a little ticky-tack, whatever, it's something where it's going to be a 5-yard, whatever it is, it's not a big deal. Not going to change the direction of the game. Hey, you know, let's get this moving. Are you sure? No, maybe. Okay, whatever we call, we're going with it, right? If it's not a big swing the pendulum of the game kind of thing. But yeah, but for big calls, take as much time as you need and get it right.
Bill, Bleacher Report has Lamar Jackson as the #1 player under 25. Do you agree?
Under 25. Oh, yeah, right, because Pat Mahomes is 25, right? Okay, I just had to make sure before I answered. Because obviously I was going to make fun of them if Pat Mahomes, but I think he is 25 now. Well, how old is Derwin James? Because unfortunately, Derwin James was hurt last year. I was about to make all these beautiful predictions about what Derwin James was going to do last year because he was going to be a monster. And then he got hurt, and I was like, oh, you know, how could this happen to us, Derwin? So my hope, first of all, is that he comes back healthy. The safety position, and I know I say this a lot because I did play
safety.
I did play safety. But also, look at the way the game is played now. I know I said this before. I'm going to say it one more time. If you have someone like Derwin James who can do, like, look at what Jamal Adams did, right? He led his team in sacks from the safety position, theoretically the safety position, as my friend called it, the edge safety. But Derwin James can do all that stuff, and he can cover the slot, and he can play outside like a corner, and he can play the deep middle, and he can come to the box and tackle with the best linebackers that we at least nowadays have. So I have to check his age. If Derwin James is not 25, I would say no. But yeah, he's one of the best young players in the game. I would say he's one of the best young players in the game. I don't think once again, I have to look at people's ages before I didn't check to see how old everyone is. But he's a really exciting young player, right? And all the things you said before, we discussed him several times. He just needs to get better at certain things. He has to be better at attacking outside the numbers deep down the field. And he has to be better at seeing the field from the pocket. If he gets better at those two things, oh my God, right? I mean, like if he can get better, because there's not much else missing from his game. People know that you need to congest the middle of the field, right? And you need to spy him. And if you force him to pick you apart, especially deep and outside the numbers, you have a chance, right? Especially if you have people are determined to stay in the rush lanes. Now, if people aren't determined to stay in the rush lanes, you're going to get gashed a couple of times a game because he's going to just take off and boom. But if you can be very determined and very, very disciplined, you're getting pressure, but you're not, don't get too far upfield. Where is he? Okay. If you're really, which is hard to do because your instincts are what we talked about, the attack dog versus the guard dog. Your instincts are saying, oh, there he is. Right. But you have to fight that. And it's hard because everything within you says, oh, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. And then you violate the rules of the defense. And then, where you used to be is where he is now. And boom. But yeah, he's a great player. I don't know if I'd say number one under 25.
Demetrius, I have a bad taste in my mouth anytime I talk about a Raven, so you can take over.
No problem. I got you. The answer is no, for two reasons. One, and I'm a Lamar guy. I like him. But truthfully, and I guess people don't like to say this, you can scheme to his weaknesses, right? You can spy, you can disguise coverage, you can do things that force him to go to the things he's not most comfortable with. He's still great, but you can't scheme Christian McCaffrey, who I still think is under 25. I think he's on the list.
He is.
He's probably the most dangerous offensive weapon currently when healthy, right? And some of it then becomes who are you? What team are you? Where are you? If you're in upstate New York, you're going to get a whole lot of Josh Allen love, and it's legit. Josh Allen's a really good player. If your team can't put pressure on the quarterback, plug your ears, James. People in Cleveland, Ohio are going to tell you that Myles Garrett is a beast, and he's under 25, and they have a point. Has DK Metcalf hit a ceiling yet? Do we know how good DK Metcalf is going to be in a year or two? And quite frankly, I would put Quentin Nelson in the Hall of Fame now. That guy plays the guard position very, very well. Very, very well. So I think there's a lot of really good young players, and some of it depends on what are you talking about. But I just believe you can scheme some of the things that make Lamar exceptional. You can scheme them so that he's just kind of good to very good. Whereas I don't think you can scheme McCaffrey. You can't scheme a healthy Christian McCaffrey because he can do everything. And you can't scheme Myles Garrett. Just pray for the tackle, because that's all you got is praying for that tackle. And I don't even know. I've never seen anything like DK Metcalf. I'm a big DK Metcalf guy. That dude is ridiculous. So no, I think there's a handful of guys, top of my head, come out when we were thinking about this. I just started going by position to think about young guys at each position, and those are the guys that just came to the top of my head that I think. And it's no slight on Lamar to say he might not be as good as Josh Allen or Myles Garrett or DK Metcalf. I don't know, but I don't think he's number one.
Can we put Justin Herbert in that category, Clint?
Maybe if we can find out, kind of like Josh Allen, if we can find out if last year was real.
Yep.
And until we know that, we've got to find that out for sure, because what the NFL is really, really good at is you say, here's what I do well. And then they say, okay, well, you can't do that anymore. So come up with something new. Both of those guys are going to face that this year. Josh Allen and Herbert are going to face that this year. We'll see if they can bounce back. I also had Christian McCaffrey in that group. He's got to be in the conversation. I really like Lamar. He can be schemed out of games. Josh Allen did beat him this year in the playoffs. And it was with the Buffalo Bills scheme. They said, you can stay back in the pocket, but you're not going to take off on us. And they took him out of the game. Honestly, best player under 25 is probably Quentin Nelson, but he doesn't play a sexy position, so he can't be the best player under 25. Sorry.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little NBA, guys, because as usual, we're right on time. Anyway, let's see. Clint.
Yes.
Steph's hot streak ended last night. I think he went 3 for 17 or something like that.
He cooled off a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, any other player, I don't know if they would have let him jack up that many threes the way he was off last night. But anyway, is he still in the MVP conversation?
No, I don't think he is. I think people will throw him out there, but let's be real clear about what the MVP is. It's what the writers feel like writing about. That's all it is. Yep. Because if we were being honest, LeBron James is probably still the MVP this year if we're really getting through the playoffs and we're getting down to it. That's not the case. They're sick of that story. It can't be Giannis. He's not doing enough, and we're sick of that story, so we're not going to write about that anymore. So they've got to come up with a new story, and that's what this is about. Having said that, Steph can't be in the MVP conversation because right now I believe the Warriors are maybe just a shade under 500. Right. They are not in the playoffs. Now, as valuable as Steph is, I can play shooting guard and get the Warriors not in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Right? We can do the same thing. I wouldn't be in the MVP conversation, and I can keep him out of the playoffs as much as he can. So, no, he doesn't get to be in the conversation.
Exactly.
Right now, I hate to say this, but Nikola Jokic is your MVP.
Homer, you're right. You can go Homer today.
He's your MVP, and I don't know that it's that close. If Embiid had played more games You can put Joel in the conversation, but nah, Steph can't be in the conversation. You got to at least make the playoffs. You get 8 teams in. I'm watching the Warriors roster and I'm going, there shouldn't be that bad, should they?
Yeah,
but they are. So no, you can't be in the MVP conversation.
Perfect. Yeah.
Demetrius, if Embiid takes that shot last night, does he make the MVP?
No, he's in the conversation anyway. It's going to be boring because I'm going to agree with almost everything Clint just said. But to me, I'm going to just have a little more fun with it. They can suck just as bad without Steph as they do with which. Okay, I get it. You're in the West, but Murray has been hurt for Denver, and Jokic has them in the 4th spot. They're hosting right now. I think they're in the 4th spot. They're hosting, in the West. Now, if they were in the East, you know where they'd be? They'd be 2nd, right behind Philly. I do like, and the bigger point that Clint made was it's about the media. Embiid's a cute media story. He still can't stay healthy. That would have been a fabulous shot. To answer your question, that would have, in the eyes of the media, been the story of sports for the next 3 or 4 days until the NFL does anything and takes over the world. So it would have been nice. To me, I don't think it's close, and I feel like I might be missing something. I just think, I think if you take Jokic off that team, healthy Murray or not, in the true definition, because really the question you're asking is, who removed from his team would have the most impact to their ability to win games.
Right.
If that's what we're doing, if we're just talking about best player, then it's LeBron every year until he's done, right? Because LeBron is just kind of better than everybody. The impact, and even this question is probably LeBron too. But realistically, Joker's my choice. I don't even know if it's a conversation right now. Embiid's cute. I mean, who knows if he's going to play? Embiid's cute, but I think Jokic is next level. And do we even know if he's not even in shape, really? Is this just what he is?
Well,
I feel like we don't have the best version of him. I don't even feel like we have the best version of Jokic, and he's still top 3, 4, 5 player in the league. That's kind of upsetting. That's almost disrespectful. Guys, I can eat cheeseburgers all day and ball with y'all. That's horrible. I like Jokic for the award.
Bill?
Well, okay, so Nikola Jokic is one of those human beings, and we all know those human beings, who just doesn't look like he should be that good, right? As tall as he is, depending upon who else is available, if you're just picking a team, you just, forget even professional athletes. Just you work at UPS, right? And you're in your UPS rec league or whatever it is. And this new kid who's moved here from, Croatia or whatever, he's really tall, but doesn't look that athletic. It might take him like 2 or 3 picks, but when he gets in that situation, right? Mike played at Tyler Junior College in Texas, and he can really jump. He might go first, right? And then you might take the guy who can really, really shoot. And then that kind of big, pale, soft-looking kid.
Big, slow white dude.
Right.
You're the big, slow white dude. Yeah.
Right. So that's part of it, both the charm and as you said, is this the best version of him? This is the best version because that's who he is, right? He's always going to be the guy that you're not convinced.
Right. That's the trick, isn't it?
Right. That's how he gets them. Right? I mean, there's always guys that you feel like are doing it with mirrors, like at every level of every sport. There's always that guy who's like, he can't be that good, right? And then somehow he's doing it. I mean, the players I think of, and he doesn't look like any of them because he just doesn't look like any other great player I can think of. But when you think about like a combination of like McHale and Bill Walton with a little bit of Bird, I mean, like these great players, and Bird wasn't a great athlete either, but he looks a little less dynamic than any of the other great players I've ever seen. Going back as far as I can remember, and James might be able to, help me up. I think of a guy that looked like he shouldn't be that good. But even the guys that I think of, where it's, I mean, Adrian Dantley didn't look super athletic either, right? Adrian Dantley looked kind of like, once again, a guy that would like come out with black socks, right? Well,
your uncle at the barbecue.
Right. But your uncle, you're thinking, come on, man. And then your uncle, puts 38 on you, right?
One of the best most players in history, right?
Right.
Jokic is our Vitas Sabonis.
Yep.
When he was in his prime that we didn't get to see.
Prime, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Well said.
But I think you're right. It's that thing of like for years, the league would never respect how good a shooter Bill Laimbeer was right? We knew it in Detroit. And they just wouldn't. It's like, it's a 6'10" white guy. He can't possibly shoot. And he would just stand out at the arc and knock down triples laughing. And they wouldn't go out and guard him. It's it's the visual. It's the visual. And Jokic excels at every part of the game. And it just doesn't look like it. It's so fascinating.
Anybody remember a guy named John Havlicek?
Yeah.
Well, Havlicek was a really good athlete.
Before my time, but
He was a terrific athlete. He was a great football player. He played football at Ohio State.
But he didn't look like it.
When
you put him in a basketball uniform.
Oh, you knew by the end of the first quarter. You knew by the end of the first quarter. It didn't take that long. He figured it out.
Yeah, same thing with Jokic. You know by the end of the first quarter, but when you're sitting across the bench, who's that white guy?
To be fair, Hondo was a much more dynamic looking athlete than Jokic. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I remember watching him, beat people up and down the court on the court. I mean, he was I think his title of his book was "Hustle is a Skill." I think was the title of his book, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, he was always in motion. Like Jokic. When people are letting the game come to him, it's like he commands the game to come to him, right? Like the game can't help it because he shouldn't be able to do some of the things he does. It's like it's almost like hypnotic, right? Like I'm going to score. I know you think I'm not going to score. It doesn't look like I should be able to score. This pass I'm going to complete. It doesn't look like the ball should get there, but it will get there. And like people are powerless to stop him. This rebound I'm going to get, I'm not really going to be able to jump because I don't jump. Really, but I'm going to get this rebound. And you look at how is he getting these rebounds? Like it really feels like almost like a hypnotic trance. It's like a Jedi thing or whatever. Like this is not the rebound that you're looking for. He really manages to part of it's anticipation. He has a great mind for the game, but I mean, it almost feels mystic sometimes. Some of the things he does because he just. I mean, Havlicek was just outworking people, right? He was a good athlete, no matter what he may look like. He was a terrific athlete, and he just kept running and moving. It was exhausting watching John Havlicek. It was actually quite peaceful and relaxing watching Jurkovic play because he doesn't move much.
Yeah. Clint, I'm going to start with you. I see. What is that back there in the background? That's that. I was looking at the basketball back there. There's a green basketball.
We've got a few things up here.
That is good.
Got a lot of things.
Clint, I think you were around for our conversation about the Knicks and how much they changed, and were they going to be the laughing stock of the East and all that? But I think they're number 4, and. There's a guy named Julius Randle that could possibly be in the conversation for most improved player. And some guy named Thibodeau. He might be in a conversation for Coach of the Year. What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, he's going to be in the conversation for sure. The Knicks are 6 games over 500. They are the 4 seed in the East. And that tells you how desperate we are for the Knicks to do anything because we're like, they're really good. Well, they're okay. They're all right. But that's how excited people get when the Knicks win anything because you're like, they're not terrible this year. Yeah, they're solid. I don't know that they can win a playoff series, but yeah, they're going to be in conversations about those things because what Thibodeau has done has been really impressive. You got the Knicks to win. That hasn't happened in quite a while. Granted, in another year or two, all his players will hate his guts and quit. Don't worry about that. That's down the road. That's stuff for later. Yes.
There's a shelf life on
there is because he runs his boys hard and they work really hard and then they all want to murder him. And that will be coming. But in the here and the now, hey, enjoy what you have because it might not last much longer.
It will not.
Demetrius, it will not.
It will not. He's absolutely right. I was going to jump on that, but now instead, since Clint covered it all, I'm going to be salty Detroit fan. This is the media doing that thing. That if the Pistons were 4 seed, 6 games, nobody would give a damn. It wouldn't be a story. Nobody would care. But it's New York. And it's Madison Square Garden, right? Yeah. Julius Randle's been a good player all along. I don't know how the most improved player works. Julius Randle's been been good with the
is
Lakers. Then he got buried in New Orleans because nobody pays attention. And now it's like he's in New York. So we realize, we see it. Julius Randle's been this dude all along. Julius Randle has a tremendous skill set. He's left-handed, so that makes him a little bit more difficult because people aren't used to seeing some of the stuff he does all the time. Julius Randle has been good since he walked out of Kentucky. So he probably will win the award just because of the way they do it. I don't know. I didn't look at his stats. If you look at his stats, I don't know that they're dramatically better than he's probably like a 19-10 type of guy or a 19-9, something like that. That's what he's been. He's been capable of doing that since the minute he stepped into this league. And so he can get the award. That's great. Tibbs is somebody's gonna kill Tibbs by 2023 for sure.
What do you think, Bill?
Well,
we've given Thibodeau 2 years.
A little more than 2.
Yeah, well, first of all, I should mention, and I'm a Tom Thibodeau apologist. I wanted him. Here is the coach. I was upset when he left. So let me just say this: we were talking about Julius Randle. He's always been good, but this season he's been something very. So he's just under 24 points, 23.9 points per game.
Okay.
He's averaging 10.5 rebounds, with 1.3 of them being offensive rebounds. He's averaging 6.1 assists. He's averaging a steal, only 0.3 blocks, so a third of a block per game, which is not awesome, but he's doing everything else he's doing at a very, very high level. He's shooting 80% from the free throw line, which is all of his numbers are up, I guess is what I'm saying. Every single number that he's ever put up, he's having a career year.
Yeah.
Right? He's been really good. He's been really good. And whether or not he's the most improved player, because as was pointed out, he was always good, he has taken a step. If they had one for the guy who's taken the most impressive step forward, even though he's already good award, maybe he should win that. But
I like that award.
I don't think they have that one yet. But I look forward to it, being there and then sponsored by Rogaine or whatever. But the fact is that if you just look through that roster, right? I mean, Derrick Rose is a guy that everyone knows the name, but he's not really Derrick Rose anymore. He's still a decent basketball player, but having seen both in high school, up close in person, Derrick Rose play basketball at Simeon High School, and watching him early in his career with the Bulls in person, it almost hurts a little bit. He's still a good player, but my God, the player he was going to be, and we'll never get to see that guy, unfortunately. But they've got a good young nucleus of players. Alec Burke is a decent young player. RJ Barrett, while he may never be a superstar, is going to be a really good second, third option for years to come. Reggie Bullock is I use the term glue guy a lot. Taj Gibson is there as a buffer between the coach and the players. Yep. I mean, that's not all he does, but that's kind of a big part of what he does. Nerlens Noel is a big guy. And they got to figure
skinny guy.
Yeah, right. Big skinny, right, yes. Big going this way, but not so big skinny guy. Alfred Payton is. Do they have a 7th Man of the Year award? Does that exist?
That's your glue guy, though. That's your glue guy.
Right, he's a glue guy, but he's a terrific glue guy. Like if there were a 7th Man of the Year award, I would nominate Alfred Payton.
The Bills just creating new awards.
I would love to see a 7th Man of the Year award.
I'm glad that Bill doesn't run any of the boxing organizations. Thank God.
But also what I'm trying to point out is this team is not loaded, right? When people talk about like the modern NBA and super teams, whatever, no, right? I mean, the best player on their team is the kind of guy that you trade to get a superstar, right? In fact, that actually happened to him. Now think about it, right? That's right. It's not even theoretical. It actually has happened.
Literally.
So that tells you what this team is. When the best player on your team is a guy that was used as part of a deal to bring a superstar, like a real superstar. He's a really good player, though. So this team is still a couple of good players, really good players away from being a real threat. Even in the East, but even. Yeah, even in the East. I'll just say it. Even in the East, they're a couple good players away from being a real legitimate threat.
Yeah. Bill, let's see. Now, we will talk about the Nets. We will talk about the 76ers. We're talking about the Knicks. But have we forgot about that team that's in third? Have we forgot about Giannis?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I still think they're the ones going to emerge from the East. I mean, until something happens that change my mind. I think it's, once again, wonderful and fun and cute and all these things that Dimitri said earlier to look at these other teams. But then, once again, look at the rosters. At some point, you have to look at the rosters and say, gosh, who do I trust, to survive in the playoffs? There's still not another team that I trust more. There's some teams that are getting close, like some of the teams we were mentioning are getting close. They've narrowed they're closer. And people love to talk about the Nets. And the Nets are a really fun, interesting team, especially if you like to write about basketball. If you're a basketball writer, thank God for the Nets, right? Because you always have something to write about. The Nets are always giving you something, right? There's always, thank God. Because if something's slow or maybe nothing happens, it's like, well, what are the Nets doing, right? And good, somebody did something or said something or won't play for a couple of weeks or whatever it is. There's always something. And the Nets are going to be a team that will win, a playoff, maybe 2 playoff series. But I just don't. You remember the thing where I say every time you ask me about the Nets and, when your team is built around a player that only really likes basketball on one end of the court and not so much on the other end of the court. And how I say I never trust those teams. And you've been asking, I guess you asked me first about this, 6 years ago, maybe. And I've never changed my answer. So you can then pencil in me for that same answer I've been giving you every time you ask about a team built around Mr. Harden.
Clint?
I don't think I haven't forgotten about Milwaukee or the Greek Freak or any of that. But when the last 4 seasons we see them keep losing in the same way, I do get concerned because come playoff time, you better be able to knock down a few shots, and Milwaukee has struggled to do that. Not only have they struggled to knock down the 3, which would be nice, can you make a free throw? I know I'm asking a lot there. If he can do that, Milwaukee is going to be the team to watch in the East. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year that the Milwaukee kind of sneaks through, because for the last few years, they've been the top seed and then not gotten it done. Maybe this is a perfect situation for them to kind of sneak up on everybody saying, hey, keep talking about Brooklyn all you want. We're going to be the team that gets through, but they're going to have to knock down some shots, and they have not been able to do that in the postseason. Giannis has got to make some free throws, and somebody on that team is going to have to knock down a shot or two. If they do, they will be very sneaky. There's a team over there that's starting to concern me a tiny bit, and that is those Boston Celtics. And I am not a Celtics fan, but they're starting to concern me a little bit that maybe they could start playing better down the stretch and be a pain in the postseason. We'll see if that actually happens. But no, I think Milwaukee's in a great spot because no one's looking at them right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's it. I'll jump right in. I love Milwaukee. I haven't forgotten about them. Every time we've talked about the NBA, I've mentioned Milwaukee. And for me, it's not just Giannis. I think they've got those under the radar, sneaky, good glue guys that are somewhere between glue and really good player. Chris Middleton's a really good player, right? Drew Holiday is a good player. Right? Are people going to talk about him? I don't know. And then they'll get really good representation from your PJ Tuckers and Bobby Portis and some of these type of guys. Brook Lopez is going to give them quality minutes and help them win games. He's stretched out. And you have Giannis. At the end of the day, you also have Giannis. So I think Milwaukee is actually a good team. I think Milwaukee has a lot of balance, and I just don't think the experiment in Brooklyn, New York, it's going to implode at some point. Your boy's going to take a couple of personal days, and KD is never going to be the KD we talk about. That dude's gone forever. I'm not trying to be a bad guy. I actually like Kevin Durant as a guy. That KD is gone forever. Guys, we talk about it like it's going to be that KD. We're never going to see that guy again. And Bill's favorite point guard in the world, we know he's going to flake on us at some point. I trust. That's the word. Trust. I trust Milwaukee more than I trust any part of Joel Embiid's anatomy, any part of Kyrie Irving's mind, anything below Kevin Durant's knee. I trust Giannis and the Bucks roster more than I trust all those guys. Boston is legitimate. That's legitimate. But I like Budenholzer too. So I like the coach. So I like Milwaukee. I do.
It's interesting that you brought up the coach, Demetrius, because
It's called segue. You're welcome.
thank you, thank you very much. So the Nets, they might have the best roster on paper, but when it comes down to the coaching staff for a full series, who's your guy?
Was that for me? Okay, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I just talked about Milwaukee a lot, but we're talking about coaches. So, in the spirit of Bill's use all three names, I'm going with Glenn Anton Rivers. I'm a Doc guy. I've been a Doc guy. Doc's going into the Hall of Fame as a coach when this is all said and done. I don't know if people realize that. Doc is 10th all time in wins. Doc has coach of the year. If Embiid stays healthy, that's the challenge to Milwaukee. Tobias Harris is chronically underrated. That is a really good basketball player. He spent a couple years in Detroit. I got to see him up close. Tobias Harris is a fantastic basketball player. I think he is underrated as a coach. He has been for a while. I think Doc Rivers is a very, very good coach. His record is really good, and he had some bad Orlando teams early that are pulling that record down. He doesn't have the head cases that exist in New Jersey, or New Jersey, in Brooklyn. So I think that Doc probably has an easier team to coach because Embiid, for whatever he is, Doc Rivers commands respect. I don't know if you ever heard Glenn Rivers talk, but Doc Rivers commands respect. You don't consider respecting Doc. By the time he's through his first sentence, you realize, oh, this is someone I should probably listen to and respect. And he was a really good player in the league, probably underrated as a player. I think he'll go in the Hall of Fame as a coach. Steve Nash might eventually be a very good coach. I don't know. Steve Nash has a roster full of head cases. So no disrespect to Steve Nash. That's a different job than the job Doc has. I'm a Doc guy, and if I've got Doc versus Steve Nash and world be flat, I think Doc will scheme a victory out just on sheer coaching acumen. So I like Doc Rivers.
Bill.
Yes, and once again, great work on Glenn Anton Rivers. So once again, Maywood, right? A Proviso East product. He's there's a reason he's respected. He managed to be tough without being hard, right? He's a guy who has an inward toughness, but leads with affection for his players.
Yep.
He understands basketball at, the highest of levels. I don't know what else you can say about how well he thinks through situational basketball. He's one of the top 3 or 4 I've ever seen at that. He gets the best out of most of his players. We've seen a couple of times where, for whatever reason, he and a player don't mesh, and that happens with almost any player you can think of, any coach you can think of. There's some players that just aren't right for certain coaches, but when he has his guys, when he has Doc's guys, he can beat teams that are significantly better than his team. Like, I've seen him, manage to win games with guys that's like, really? Okay. Right? That's I didn't see that coming. Okay, well, good on you. He manages, despite being sort of an old school guy, to really relate to some very young players who, and now they come less mature than ever before, right? They come less physically mature, less mentally mature, less basketball mature. We beat the whole AAU thing to death, but there's ways that players used to be raised that they now have to be raised basically now that they're getting millions of dollars, right? When they used to get their upbringing as basketball players pretty much finished, where before they made a single penny playing. Now guys grow up on the job, and that's hard. I don't know. I don't know the last time any of you had to talk to a 19-year-old millionaire, but it's not always an easy conversation to have.
Right.
So I give Glenn Anton Rivers complete total credit for what he's managed to do, and I always respect any team that has him on the bench, because that team's going to play hard and play smart.
Yep.
Clint.
Which coach
Yeah,
do I
Doc.
like over there in the East? It's
And
so
it
hard.
doesn't have to be the East.
Oh,
it
well,
could
then
be
I'll take
any
LeBron.
coach.
I think he's coaching better than anybody else right now. But the hard part is we don't know what Steve Nash has as a coach, but we do know he doesn't have experience. And there is a lot to be said for experience, especially come playoff time. And we've already talked about his roster is full of knuckleheads and injury issues. So it's not just the knuckleheads, but Nash has a full plate. If we are looking over in the East, obviously, Doc was the first guy to come to mind. Spoelstra's team is not playing well. Miami is struggling a little bit. We haven't seen Brad Stevens, get it done yet in the postseason. Budenholzer hasn't gotten it done yet in the postseason. So it has to be Doc.
Yeah.
As long as his team doesn't go up 3-1, and then he'll be in some trouble. But we won't bring that stuff up. We'll keep that stuff. I know. It's fresh. It's fresh. It just happened.
Right there.
Dimitri, I'm going to throw you another curveball here because there's a young player in Detroit that's really balling right about now. Too bad you guys are in last place. Are you going to be able to keep Corey?
We can keep anybody because our cap is healthy, right? We can do a lot of things. We're in such a building mode that right now I think. Right now for a team that's way down where we are loaded with young talented players. Killian Hayes is legitimate, right? Yep. Just scratching the surface. Sadiq Bey probably should be in the rookie of the year conversation. I don't know if he will be. He probably should be. And Isaiah Stewart is Dennis Rodman, Ben Wallace, but he can shoot free throws. So he and all these guys are, I mean, at the young level, they need to grow. I'm not suggesting they are those dudes right now. Saban Lee, Frank Jackson, there's a lot of good young players on this team. Josh Jackson. I think that you're going to see Troy Weaver. His name's going to come up a lot more. And this team's going to continue to get better. I think that right now, we're not there yet. But I think that Killian Hayes is one of the players I like a lot, and they got Tyler Cook. I forgot about Tyler Cook. So they've got some good young players on this team, and I think right now, you talked about Diallo a couple weeks ago. Who is Diallo? I told you, and Bill loves Wayne Ellington. That's a joke. Wayne Ellington's a shooter. He's a decent shooter. I like him, but I think that Sekou Doumbouya, hopefully he can come up and be what we thought he was going to be. I like the roster. I like where we are in the rebuild. I like the roster. I mean, and we talked about this, and I can go on my poor Detroit rant again. Guys aren't jumping out of their cars like, let's go sign with the Pistons. Let's move to Detroit, Michigan. That ain't happening, right? We have state income taxes, unlike Texas and Florida. We don't have that advantage. It gets cold for like 5 months out of the year. It's really cold. So guys aren't rushing to come to Michigan. They're just not. And that's their loss. The state of Michigan is beautiful. The state of Michigan is a beautiful place to live. But the Pistons have to do this in a different way. They're going to have to draft well. They're going to have to develop well. And they're going to have to create an environment where winning appeals to guys. And then you may get that superstar to come. But I think when you take the scattershot approach that Troy Weaver has done, which is he hit all 4 draft picks. Saban Lee, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, and Killian Hayes. He hit 2 home runs and 2 doubles. Yep. He nailed all those guys. If some of the acquisitions like Frank Jackson and Wayne Ellington, Diallo, they hit in 2 years, you're gonna have a 6-7 man deep roster of really good players. You're not gonna have a superstar though. And the reality is this league is built for like 6 or 7 teams to win because they're gonna have 2 or 3 stars. There's no way for us to do that. So we have to. 2 of these dudes need to blow up. and Killian Hayes has the potential, and Sadiq Bey can shoot the basketball. He can shoot the basketball. So hopefully, I like where they are because this is our only path. If we get lucky and like Milwaukee, right? If they don't draft a once in a generation player at 15, we're not talking about Milwaukee. They got a once in a lifetime player at 15 in the draft. You have to do it that way because we're not New York. We're not Miami. We're not any of the Texas teams. And we are not in Southern California. So I like what they're doing. I like the roster as it is now. I think it's got the potential to grow and be really good. And Of all the players, Sadiq Bey is awesome, but I really love Killian Hayes. I think he's got huge upside.
And it did snow in Detroit yesterday, didn't it?
It did. It did. Yes. It's only April, bro.
Yeah.
It's only April. It's only April.
Clint, are the Phoenix Suns actually, well, I'll put it like this. Are the Phoenix Suns a product of AD and LeBron's absence?
To a point of where they're at, maybe, but no, the Phoenix Suns can play a little bit. Right. Phoenix Suns are really good defensively. Chris Paul has improved that team so much with his defense, and when you're going to get Chris Paul, you're going to get a lot of defense. Yep. You're going to get a lot of whining. You're going to get a lot of complaining at the rest, but you're going to get a lot of defense, and he has raised the level of that team. Phoenix can play, and I'll be honest, I'm shocked at how much better they are this fast. I didn't think they could improve. Remember, it was a year or two ago. They were horrible. The job they have done down there is amazing. Now, does it help that the Lakers don't have all their people? Of course it does. They are playing. They're coasting. They're not even trying. As long as they get one of the top 4 seeds, the Lakers could care less. And even if they end up at the 5, they don't care all that much. I wouldn't think they'd want to see Denver in the first round just because of the altitude, but I don't think they really even care that much. So no, Phoenix is not fake. Can they win the whole thing? Not as long as the Lakers are still in the league, not this year. But Phoenix is like legit. They're okay.
Yeah.
Bill, your thoughts on the Lions and the Suns? I mean, excuse me, the Pistons and the Suns.
Well, okay, so I think Demetrius, did you and I discuss the Pistons once before?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so I told him before about what I thought about the construction of the roster, and I could not agree more about the job the front office has done in putting a lot of really fun young talent. And Killian Hayes has a chance to be, basically a French Dwayne Wade if he continues to develop, gets physically stronger, and a different mindset about how he plays. And once again, I hate to bring up the whole Europeans are soft. Well, one is he's not soft, but he doesn't quite have the level of aggression that the top players have. He has the level of talent, but he doesn't have the level of aggression yet.
Yeah. I think he lives in Detroit, Michigan. He can develop that.
He can develop, exactly.
we can bring that out of him. Don't worry.
If you can get him to realize, one, just how good he can be, and two, that you don't have to always – I mean, sometimes by being a team player, you do take the game over, right? I mean, sometimes that is how you help the team. Like, you don't always have to make the play that would make sense from a pure basketball standpoint. Like, you should usually do that, but sometimes you are the best option, and you should – whatever you're doing is the best thing. And once again, he's probably a year or two away from being that player and in that mindset. But if he does get there, you'll have a superstar. If he continues to get a little stronger physically and gets that mindset, I won't say Mamba mindset because, well, one, good God, sort of an overused phrase, but two, you don't have to be to that extent. You have to go that far, right? The whole thing where it's like, well, yeah, you gotta, Machiavellian, crazy, whatever some of that stuff is. But sometimes you have to be selfish to be unselfish, right? To sometimes the best way to serve the team is by being the guy. Yeah. I like that you have players that know their roles. It sounds simple to say that, right? Oh yeah, right. I know. No, I mean, probably 1/3 of the guys in the league don't actually know their roles. They have a mental picture of what they are as a player that just doesn't match reality. Yeah. But you seem to have a team that has a pretty good sense of what it is and how it plays. And yeah, you have two really exciting young players. One of whom I think does have a chance to become like an actual superstar. The other one has a chance to be, like I said, Kato to the Green Hornet, or to be, Robin to Batman, if you can develop a Batman. And that, you said, that's the big challenge. That is the big question when you are the Pistons. The Suns are a super fun team to watch. I think we've discussed them before too. I feel like we have. In terms of just pure fun, they may be the most fun, one of the most fun teams to watch in the whole league.
Yeah.
Doing what you think is fun. Now, if you like defense, they're not really the most fun team, but they play enough defense. I mean, for now, how the game is played. Obviously, the bad boy Pistons, or even the early '90s, or Knicks are not about to walk through that door. So, we got to do with what we got. But they move the ball, right? They have an actual budding. I guess maybe I shouldn't say budding. I guess he's a full-on superstar. They have a full-on superstar in Devin Booker, who, who knows what his ceiling is, but he's a guy who can get a shot against everybody, anybody. When he's on, he's on. Like, some guys, just when they're on, you're locked into the ride, and you have to stay into the ride till the ride comes to a complete stop, and you've got to keep your hands and feet inside at all times. He's a guy that can put 50, 60, maybe 70 on you when he's right, no matter who you are. Especially, like I said, the way the game's played, where it's with the emphasis on space and everything. They do need at some point to find an actual stopper, like an actual rim defender. I know I keep saying this because I'm old, but at some point, if you go deep enough the playoffs, you're going to have to shut somebody down.
Exactly.
Somebody is going to be going off, and you need to have somebody who can cool that guy off. And they don't have that guy right now. They're super fun to watch. They're going to win at least one and maybe a couple playoff series. And I feel like I've said this before about another team. And then we ushered, hopefully respectfully out the playoffs.
Dameless Trailblazers, Bill. They've lost 3 out of their last 4 games by just 1 point.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on the Trailblazers and their chances in the playoffs?
Well, because you have Dame Lillard, you always have all the things I just said about Devin Booker just shrink a couple of inches, and now you're saying the same things about Damian Lillard. He's one of the 5, 6, 4, maybe even best players in the league. And when he's on, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing. When he's on, there's times when he literally, it seems like, cannot miss. It's like the Steph Curry thing, but a guy who's more athletic, quicker, can beat pretty much everyone in the league off the dribble. I'm trying to think who could stay in front of Dame Lillard. I can't think of anybody. If you can think of someone, let me know. I don't think there's a single dude in the league who can stay in front of Dame Lillard. And then now he's developed this ludicrous ability to shoot on top of being this basically unstoppable guy off the dribble. You always have a chance to win a game. Now, winning a whole series is a little tougher because everyone's going to have a bad night at some point, right? And if he has 2 out of 7 bad nights, now you just need to find 2 more ways to win, and you win the series. So I do think they win at least one playoff series just because Damian Lillard. I hate to put it that simply, but I don't think he's going to allow them to not at least get a playoff series because it's just he has a lot of pride, right? For those who haven't heard, Damian Lillard, proud dude. If you could take the best players from Detroit and the best players from the Trailblazers, now you got something.
You got yourself a team.
Yeah. Come on, Demetrius. Defend your Detroit team.
No. I don't think it was. I didn't take that negatively at all. I think you made a point earlier about Killian Hayes. Where quick story from the Bad Boys. There was once when the team got really good and they had Sally and Rodman and Joe Dumars was looking like the Hall of Fame Joe Dumars, and they were in a tough spot. Chuck Daly sat Isaiah Thomas down and said, "It's time to be Isaiah Thomas. Did you forget you're effing Isaiah Thomas?" And Isaiah got so caught up in this is a great team, he forgot.
He was a facilitator,
right? He forgot he was Isaiah. That's the thing. You mean like Killian Hayes? When Killian Hayes one day decides I'm effing Isaiah Thomas, that's when he takes off. And I think Dame Lillard has known that. To use that phrase, Dame Lillard has known he's effing Isaiah Thomas for a long time. And that's the thing. When you're as talented as he is, and you are as fearless as he is, because he's every bit as good as he says he is not scared of anybody. And when he does this, anything happen. Dame time means I can do anything. I think we might have slept on him in that MVP conversation we had an hour ago. In a true sense, after Jokic, I'm probably putting, because we're seeing it, right? This is literally the expression of it. Without Dame Lillard, they're a different team. Yeah, Dame's a different kind of dude, though. He's just wired differently. I don't buy the whole Mamba mentality. I think there's a bunch of those dudes. Dame Lillard's one of them. He's wired differently, and I think that without him, it's predictable. With him, my feeling, all due respect to LeBron, it's the best show in that league. It's when Dame is being Dame, when he's doing this, that's must see TV. For me, it is. I'm a big Dame guy.
Clint?
Well, the Blazers really ought to look at this time that Dame's out and say, okay, how do we look without him? Because we know come playoffs, they're going to try to make it as tough as they possibly can on him. So if other guys could step up their game, now is the time to start showcasing that. I would think that Lillard would probably be good for 2 points if you lost by 1. I would think he could eke out 2. So maybe this is great preparation for the postseason for this team to not have Lillard and not be able to depend on him when he comes back. We're going to be getting to the playoffs here soon. Well, maybe that bodes well for Portland going down the stretch where they've had to kind of try to find ways to win without him, because when he comes back, it's going to be showtime again, and he'll be playing well. But they do need to learn how to step up without him, because we know in the playoffs, teams are going to try to beat him up. Yep. That is the advantage you have, especially over a guy that is not a huge guy, but man, he's tough to stop. But they will lean on him a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, let's see. Well, as usual, we're right on time, so we might as well get our Laker question in for the night. So we got to start with the biggest Laker fan on the panel, Bill. Bill, what do you think about AD's return? I believe he's returning tonight. I think.
Right, a few minutes, right?
Is he going to be playing himself into shape over these next 16 games? Or is he going to be, that AD that we look for, to be LeBron's Cato?
Yes, right, exactly. Yes, right. Or, Batman, Nightwing, whatever. Robin or Nightwing or whatever. The answer really is both, right? So when you're coming back from something, there's going to be some times where you look great, right? You're well rested and all this stuff, but you're not really right yet. You're not 100% right yet. So there's going to be times when you will not look like yourself, and it'll be sort of difficult, at least for a while, to predict what you're going to get what night from out of it. But after a couple of weeks, he'll be back 100%. It just takes a while. Nothing completely. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have ever had to rehab from an injury. Luckily, I've never had a injury like super serious, but I've had, little nicks, like, stuff. And I was not a good enough player that, they were going to like, oh yeah, when you come back, you don't worry. No, I would have to fight my way back up the depth chart because I wasn't that good anyway. So, right. So I had to do everything possible because, if I missed 2 practices, coach would forget my name. I wish I were joking. So you have this situation, 4 eyes. Yeah. So you have this situation. Yeah, professor over here. I wish I could joke. Unfortunately, it's not. But you have the situation where this is one of the, some say 5, some say 10 best players in the league. And so when you are missing him, and Clint made a great point, if you're looking for a silver lining, there's guys who are going to get some experience, some exposure, some situations that they wouldn't normally be in. And so in playoff series, you're going to at some point need your 8th man, your 7th man, your whatever to play well. Sometimes because they're in their normal rotation, but sometimes things happen. A guy gets quick foul trouble, right? Whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're playing more minutes. I'm not super concerned, and as Clint says, because the Lakers themselves are super concerned, why should I be concerned if they're not concerned? I think they're going to end up being the number 3, which I think is I'm gonna say their plan was to be the number 3, but I think it's where they're going to finally end up when it all shakes out, and that's fine. I think I don't think, like I said, I don't think they care, as Clint pointed out. I think it's sort of a, we made the playoffs good, right? Yeah, that's what we planned to do, and now the season really begins, right? That's the way this team is built. The playoffs are when the real season begins for them.
Right.
So AD is going to be back and should be back, pretty much close to his 100% self in about 2 weeks.
Demetrius.
Yeah, I think his point is dead on. None of this will matter in the playoffs. I think, though, that there's a couple of things. One, it's a lower leg injury. So the one thing you probably couldn't do while you were off with the lower leg injury is run. So I would think cardio is gonna be evident at the beginning. You'll see him probably be tired, which is just normal. He's 250 pounds running up and down a basketball court. I think he's a world-class athlete and he's 28 years old. So get over it, kid. I think he'll be fine. The whole mental part of, whoa, can I get hurt again? I think we're well past that. He's been injured before. It happens. I think he probably has confidence in their medical staff. I just think there's cardio, and that's a handful of games. And for a 28-year-old who's a world-class athlete, handful of games, he should get the cardio back, because there's nothing like really playing basketball at NBA speed, running up and down the court. He can bike and do all that other nonsense. There is a whole different deal when you're in an actual game. So by the time they get to the playoffs, they'll be fine. He'll be fine. And they're simply better than everybody else. So this all is kind of moot. I don't want to put a damper on it for everybody. Sorry, NBA fans. This is kind of an exercise for the most part, in my opinion. I don't know that somebody's going to beat them 4 out of 7 times. I don't. As much as I love Denver, as much as I love Utah and Milwaukee, yeah, you got to beat them 4 out of 7 times, and that's going to be very tough.
Yep.
Clint, didn't we see the Clippers go into the playoffs with this type of attitude? I mean, Doc had to really, get in their ass, and then that still didn't work. Are the Lakers in danger of maybe the same thing happening?
No.
Overconfident?
Teed them up for another 3-1 blown lead.
Right. No, it doesn't matter, because the Lakers have so much more than everyone else. It's not even close. As good as the Clippers were, and that was a talented team, and still is a talented team. Playoff Pizzle, just come on. We have not seen dude really do all that much come postseason time. So that was a different animal. This is not that. My biggest concern is what Demetrius said. When AD went down, this was an Achilles strain, right?
Yep.
Does that just get better? You rest it, right? You rest it and rest it and rest it. That is a wear and tear injury. Yeah. The most fascinating part will not be, can he get back into shape? He'll be back into shape in 2 weeks. Will he struggle with that same injury in the postseason? That's the only reason worth watching the playoffs. Will the Lakers stay healthy? Because if they stay healthy, everyone else is playing for second place. It's not even close.
It still might not matter. They have Marcus Gasol, Andre Drummond on the bench. They're not AD, but I think with the rest of that roster, they still could do it. I don't know who could push them enough in a 7-game series, even if maybe he's down. So it doesn't matter.
Interesting, because I think if he's down, I think it improves your stock, Clint.
No, my stock doesn't improve.
Well, guys, I'm going to do something.
Some of us have self-awareness as a superpower.
Right, exactly. Gotta love it.
I'm going to give my final thoughts first, because I've just embarked on a new project, and the project is for me to organize a drive. And I want to use veterans, especially veterans that are already in Atlanta, to provide 100,000 bottles of water to Atlanta for the voters there. So I'm starting on the project already. I've put it up on GoFundMe. I have some other people that are involved. So that's my pet project for 2021, and it goes up until November 8th, 2022. So those are my final thoughts for the evening. Any help that you gentlemen would like to assist me with, please feel free to DM me. So let's start with our final thoughts for the evening. Bill, I'm going to start with you, then Demetrius, and token white guy, you can take us home.
I'm sorry. I still didn't realize we could say it. I didn't even get one in.
It's right there.
That's how you know.
He's family. He's family. We can do it. He's
That's how
family.
you know he's fully accepted.
Exactly.
Right? Because like it's here now, right?
It just flows out.
It's in here. So unfortunately, I have to talk about another white guy who is not a token. And I've been watching Brett Favre since he was 19 years old. I watched him get out of a hospital bed and beat Alabama in a driving rainstorm. I've been a fan of his. I've rooted for him. I like everyone else, watched and hurt for him when he played, a day and a half or so after his father died. Irv Favre, who was his hero and mentor and all sorts of things. But for a man who keeps saying, I wish people would keep politics out of sports, hey, physician, heal thyself. There comes a time that maybe you should zip it, right? You're not required to speak on everything, right? There's sometimes when you can just say, if someone comes to you and says, what do you think? A verdict has been rendered. And I believe in our system. And then move on, right? If you have to say anything. But you don't have to. You're not required to actually weigh in on everything, Brett. I think it's interesting that these people, these men who, have once again been part of a locker room, and it's a sacred space in many ways. You share everything. You cry with these people. You hurt with these people. You get disappointed with them. You love things with them. Like you probably meet your wife around the time that your career begins, or a lot of these guys meet their wives around the time their career begins. Some guys, meet them before college or high school, but a lot of them meet them early in their NFL careers. Some of these guys will be in your wedding, right? To be around all of these black men. And I'm sure at some point to have heard them talk about their lives, their stories, and their experiences, and to have none of it penetrate to the point where you just keep your mouth shut if you have nothing really to offer, but instead go like in the whole other direction with certain things and to speculate about things that you clearly can't really know anything about. Makes me wonder a lot of things, right? And you can never separate, frankly, the realities of life from sports. As much as some people would love to say, shut up and dribble, or say, I use sports as my escape. Well, that's nice. That's an example of privilege. It's not an escape for some of us. For some of us, it's just an expression of life, culture, history, all that. We're just 7 days removed from when, as I talked about last week, Jackie Roosevelt Robertson breaking the color line. Somebody mentioned Muhammad Ali, and you can't think about Muhammad Ali, who was, of course, an athlete, but was a lot more than an athlete. Kareem, Jim Brown, there's a long list. It's not like you could turn off like a spigot. So if Brett somehow thinks that there's a way to insulate himself, or for any of us to insulate ourselves from everything else by just throwing yourself into this cocoon of sports, well, one, he's violated his own directive, right? He's violated his own prime directive. So that's the first thing. Like, well, what are you doing if that's what you truly believe? But it's clear he doesn't really truly believe that, right? He's just, once again, he's expressing a privilege that I could never even fully understand. I know, but I can see it. I recognize it. I don't understand it, but I see it. I hope that no matter what your life experiences and what you know and what you don't know, I would like for people who do have a certain amount of position of respect, and people look to you and think, to say to yourself, maybe I don't know what I think as much as I think I know, right? And it takes a certain amount of humbling yourself to say that, because people are telling you that you're amazing. I've been telling you you're amazing since you were like probably 14, 15 years old. I get it that it's hard to humble yourself, but I would ask him and other people in similar situations to say, let me ask somebody else maybe. Let me think about this first. Let me try to educate myself about this first, because we've reached a point where ignorance has been a choice, right? Information has been around for a while. If you don't know something now, it's because you chose not to know it. And that's my final thought.
Yep. Awesome.
Demetrius.
Well, I'm going to go off script. This is a sports show, and we generally do sports, and sometimes we've done serious stuff. I'm getting just extremely personal and self-serving. You guys know I love sports, right? This team, that kid, this guy over here. But one of my other serious passions, and it kind of ties into what Bill says. When I need to calm down, when I want to relax, I love music. Music is one of the greatest things ever. Particularly, I love jazz music. Contemporary jazz of now and traditional jazz. Love jazz music. So I had a conversation recently with someone who said, "Oh, I know you love jazz. If I asked you to just tell me one record or one artist, right?" And there's so many, right? I could have said Miles, I could say Coltrane, I could say all kinds of things. Today happens to be, would have been the 99th birthday of a guy named Charlie Mingus, right? So if you don't know jazz, that's cool. If it's not your thing, if you don't think it's your thing, that's cool. I'm going to challenge you to just do one thing. Go to your iTunes, pop in your Google machine, whatever you want to do, put in Charlie Mingus, or just put in Mingus Ahum, A-H-U-M.
Yeah.
That's the name of the record, recorded in 1959. Sit down, get yourself a beer, get yourself a glass of wine, whatever your drink of choice is. Have a seat, put this on, and relax. All this crap going on in the world fades away. That is jazz. And I believe it is the purest form of music. It transcends age, race. It transcends everything. Jazz music is a beautiful thing. And Charlie Mingus was, there isn't a word. He was a pianist, a bassist, a composer, a band leader. He was jazz. And like I said, I love guys. Miles Davis, John Coltrane. There's a long list. Thelonious Monk. There's a long list. Charlie Mingus is right there with all of them. Yep. So go find this recording from 1959 or read his autobiography. It's called Beneath the Underdog. Fascinating. I went through a biography phase. I was just reading everybody's biographies. It's fabulous. I am a fan of jazz. I am a promoter of jazz. There are people, oh, it's so boring. I would say the world gives you a lot of stuff. All of us, the token white guy included, got it in. Bam. We all deal with nonsense day in and day out. Jazz music is a ridiculous thing that I just believe some people are missing. They don't know. So happy birthday, Charlie Mingus. He would have been 99. We lost him to ALS back in 1979, and his music is forever. It's as good today as it was when he recorded it in 1959, 10 years before I was born. He recorded this, and it's every bit as good. And if you can get a digitally remastered version, wow. Like I said, whatever your drink of choice is, sit back, pop this on your headphones or your speaker or whatever it is, and just relax in it and let the rest of the world fade away, because the man was extremely talented. He left gifts to the world in the form of his music. So just wanted to say appreciation for Charlie Mingus.
I'm wondering about that. 1959, 10 years before you were born.
No, I wasn't trying to look. Your back is not. There's no knives in your back. I promise. I was just making the point of there's a recording that was recorded well before I was born, and now I will be 52 years old a week from tomorrow, and I listen to this thing on a weekly basis. It's that good. It's that good. Just as sheer music, it's that good.
In 1959, my uncle listened to it a lot of Charlie Mingus. I was 12, so yeah. But that's all right. That's okay.
I think 12-year-old James King would have loved Charlie if he wasn't getting in trouble and hanging. He should have been hanging with his uncle listening to Charlie Mingus. I imagine he wasn't, though.
Well, I listened to a lot of it from the closet, but that's another story.
Nice.
Clint,
Yes.
Your final thoughts for Edie, my man. Glad to have you back, man.
Well, thank you for having me back. Yeah, I had an interesting 2 weeks, but thank you for having me back. I honestly, I didn't even have to talk tonight. I enjoyed just sitting and listening to you guys, your final thoughts, getting some of the things that you were talking about now. It was something I was thinking about earlier. There are times that right now, with everybody still somewhat in the COVID thing, kind of being in your house and but go outside and just say hi to your neighbor, and you will be surprised at how much a lot of this crap melts away. Because you go, oh yeah, that the person that lives next door to me, the kids are outside playing, life is still out there. So yeah, good stuff that all three of you brought on your final thoughts. I, however, am going to be a juvenile and a jerk, and I'm going to talk about how the Denver Nuggets cannot have nice things. And I missed last week when Jamal Murray was lost for the season with an injury while trailing the Golden State Warriors, I might add, who are not in the playoffs. That is a prime example of how my team cannot have nice things. Here is a challenge to you. If I were to say to you, who are the worst teams, pro franchises in the world, you would come up with a lot of different teams. You might say the Browns. You might say the Bills. You might say the Clippers. You might say the Lions. You might say the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know who you probably wouldn't say? You probably wouldn't say the Denver Nuggets, but you should. We've been playing for over 50 years. We can't even win a conference title, and this was starting to look like our chance. But we can have nice things, and we ruined that too. So that's how I will end my final thought. Denver Nuggets basketball is horrible.
Well done.
And it's never going anywhere.
Can't have nice things. Well done.
Oh, man. Hey, man. As usual, we had so much fun. It doesn't matter what time it is. So,
I think you will figure out we don't really care about time. I picked that up from Bill Carroll a long time ago.
Right,
We're
right.
not looking at that little clock up there. I'm not. So,
hey, it's a good thing we all enjoy ourselves, man. But have fun until next week, man. And I look forward to seeing you all right back here on the Sports Crib. Have a great night, everyone. Don't forget, you can catch us on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Demetrius, check your email in about 3 minutes.
Will do.